Alright, and welcome to the movie credits video. And this is sort of a different video than what we're used to. I'm really going to show you how to work with type to create what they call credit blocks that are located on the bottom of almost all movie posters. Just down at the bottom, and here's an example of our fictitious movie poster here, and you can see the credits at the very bottom of the poster. Now, almost everybody has seen these credits, and a lot of people didn't know what they were actually called, and they're called credit blocks. And I'm going to show you how to develop that whole block at the very bottom for any of the posters that you create, whether it's movies or, or even just for fun. So I'm going to move this out of the way. And first of all, let's take a look at the first type of credit block. The first one here is the extended block. And this is when you don't have a lot of text, but you want to still fill the bottom of the poster. Then you would go ahead and do an extended block. And you can really do this with almost any typeface. Preferably something like a sans serif typeface, which this is a sans serif typeface right here. You don't have any special curves or other little details in the type. It's pretty straightforward. You have more defined edges and things like that. And so basically, if you use a sans serif typeface, the text will be a lot easier to read when it's small on the poster. And I've created this credit block right here using the font called Mirrored. Now, Mirrored is a font that you have to purchase. It's not free. I would highly recommend everyone to go out and purchase the Mirrored font family. It is a beautiful font. These are sans serif typefaces, and they work with just about anything. It's a pretty amazing typeface. Let's go ahead and go down to the next one here. This is what I call the popular block, or the popular credit block. This is a very, very common type of credit block. The font is called Universe 39 Thin Ultra Condensed. And this is a font that you will need to purchase as well if you would like to have this look. And this is a very popular look. I would say that this Universe Thin font is used on more movie posters than any other typeface out there. So if this is the type of thing you like to do, or you're interested in doing maybe for a career, or even if you're a graphic designer and you would like to expand your services, go ahead and get this Universe 39 Thin Ultra Condensed font. And I'll show you where to get that in just a moment. Let's go down to the next one here. This one right here is what I call a complete credit block. And this is where we have incorporated some of the film ratings and also some of the other things like the date and then the website domain and also the sound for the movie, logos such as Dolby and ProLogic and stuff like that. And so this is where we incorporate other logos in with the credit block. More and more people are starting to do this because it's very hard. Everybody wants their logo or their name on the poster, and you have to figure out how to combine everything together in one block. And so I'm going to show you, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that later on. And the greatest thing about this one that you're looking at right here, there's no font to purchase. I mean, the font that you see that I'm using for this credit block is already on your computer right now, and it's called Arial. Now, if you don't have Arial, you can also use Helvetica. I know a lot of Mac users have the Helvetica on their computers, but most people still have Arial, which is just a very commonly used typeface. It's just a standard default sans serif typeface. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. Since I don't know what fonts you have on your computer, I'm going to show you how to create a really nice credit block using just a regular old font like Arial. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. This one I call ultra condensed. This is an ultra condensed credit block. If you look very closely, you will notice a difference compared to the condensed credit block that we saw up here. Okay? The difference is, if you look closely, you can see that where the titles are next to the names, I'm using 2 lines. Now this is still a very popular, very commonly used type of format. When they have to fit in many credits into one block, they need a lot of space. Well, if they don't have a lot of space, then they have to do an ultra condensed block. And in this case, we have to make the title and also the little words like and those types of things, we have to make them much smaller than we normally do. But the titles, what we do is we take the words such as technology by, and instead of having technology by on one line, we would just have technology, and then we would go ahead and press the enter key and go down to the second line, include the word by, and just move that right up against the company name or the person that has the credit. Like over here where it says directed by, you can see that I went to the second line, and this is just so we can really ultra condense the credit block and to fit as much information into the smallest area as possible. So let's go ahead and get started here, and I'll show you how this is done. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with the extended block. And this is when you have, or you don't have a lot of credits, but you would like to fill in the bottom of the poster. In this case, what we would do is you can just use a regular sans serif typeface. Something like a sans serif condensed typeface will work just fine. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and just reset the entire credit block and show you how I created this. I'm going to double click on that type layer to select the entire credit block. Then I'm just going to come up here to character and set the font size for the entire block. Now this is what it would normally look like if you just selected the type tool, started typing, and it's just all one size. And so I would also recommend typing in all caps when you create your credit blocks. This way the text is a lot easier to read when it's just so small on that poster. However, I've seen credit blocks that use uppercase and lowercase as well. So it just really depends. If you see a poster really large on the wall, the text might look small on the computer screen, but as soon as it's printed out, it reads just fine. And so you can see this is just all crammed together. If we were to just type everything out, well, what we need to do is go in there and change the sizes of the words, like the title and words like and. We need to make those smaller to increase the readability of the block. So what I'm going to do is just zoom in. A word like this, for instance, I've got Mark Monsiardini and Melanie Stimmel. What I can do is just select the word and then come up here to the character palette, and what I'll do is just take that down 2 points, and there you go. And so now you can clearly see Mark Monsiardini and Melanie Stimmel. It just stands out a lot better that way, and it's just a much more easier to read. Let's go over here to the next one. So that's basically all I did, and this is just a very common format. This is how they do it. This is how a lot of designers, when they create movie posters, this is the exact same thing that they do. There's also something else you can do. If you position or if you lower the font, well, it's going to place the font at the very bottom here, and I recommend doing that because you want the bottoms of all these letters to line up. But you can also select the type tool, click and select that word there, and what I can do is just come over here where our baseline shift is, and I can change the baseline and position that and go from the bottom to the top. I'll press the enter key on the keyboard so you can see now it's no longer at the bottom, it is on the top. That's a, and that's another option you can do, but I would recommend placing it on the bottom. So that's how it's done. I can just come in here, select this word, we'll select the entire directed by, and I'll come up here to 14. You can see what I'm doing is a really easy way to do this is just to start with a preset point size or a standardized point size in the character palette. Then for these words like present, directed by, editor, all those other words, take it down 2 points. So you can just go down 1, 2. In this case, I'm going down to 14 point, and it's just a good practice to do that, because if we have large text next to small text, well, it's easier to read those two sets of words. And because it creates a contrast between those two, and you can see the word secret here and the word directed. It's very easy to read these two words, but if I didn't make the directed word as small, you can see that if I only went down 1 point, you can see that it's still very similar in size. So what we need to do is make these words smaller. So I'll take that down to 14 points. Great. And now I can do this for all the words that we have here. Okay, this is the easiest credit block to create. All we have to do is just select the titles, like Technology By, and then just make it smaller. So it's pretty straightforward, really easy to do. What I'm going to do is just zoom out, and let's take a look at the next block right here. This is the popular block, which contains the Universe typeface, the Universe 39 Thin Ultra Condensed. I have it right in this file here, so if you ever wanted to know or ever want to relook that up, you can just open this file named Credit Blocks, which is in the Movie Credits folder on the DVD, and you will see the name here. So to get this font, all you have to do really is go to a website called myfonts.com. So go to the URL address bar and just type in myfonts.com, and this website will pop up right here. And go ahead and type in Universe and just click on Search. Alright, then you should see a page that looks just like this, and I'll scroll down and you can see that there's several Universe families over here, but you can see right here Universe LT family, and if you look closely you'll find that font right here. Now let's go ahead and just click on this Universe LT family, then scroll down and you'll find, should be right here, Universe 39 Thin Ultra Condensed. Go ahead and click on that, and here it is. So also at the MyFonts website, you can also type in text up here, and like for instance, I can just put directed by, and I can click on Change Sample Text, and then you can see what the font looks like with that word. Okay, and you can see the font handles really well when it's really small, as you can see here. That's probably why so many people use it. So if the Universe typeface is something that you really like, go ahead and buy it. I think it's just like 25 bucks or something like that. Fonts are pretty cheap, and I think it's totally worth it. And they're so much better than the free fonts and some of the standard fonts that are installed on your computer when you first buy it. I recommend, if you are a designer, go out there and buy some fonts. You're just going to see a much better improvement. You're going to have more inspiration when it comes to designing. It's just a good thing to do. So I want to go ahead and minimize this, and let's go back into Photoshop. So that is how I created the popular block here, and it's really pretty straightforward. I'm just using the Universe 39 Thin Ultra Condensed font, and so we pretty much know how to create this, and I've already showed you how to make the font or the text smaller next to the normal size text. So what I'm going to do is just press the space bar and get the hand tool, and let's move on down to the next one here. Now this is what I call the complete block, and there's a couple things that I want to show you on this one. And some of these logos look very familiar. Now I wouldn't recommend placing the rating logos and the sound and the Dolby logos on your posters unless you really have your movies rated by these companies and that you're really using Dolby sound, and because I don't know how all that works. I think there's some type of approval thing there, and so I wouldn't necessarily just jump to these logos. But for this tutorial I decided to go ahead and include these so you can kind of get an idea on what this really looks like. Now with this complete block, this is where we sort of have to take advantage of almost all the space that we have. A lot of times a lot of designers don't like to leave open space with their credit blocks. You can see that a lot of people will take something like this logo here and just place it into the block like this. So it just looks more full, like so. And what's really popular now is that a lot of credit blocks do have the date when the movie is coming out. They have the date like you see here, April 15th. I've seen some people put coming soon right on their credit block. And so that's very popular. And then also right underneath the date, most of the time you will find the domain. Okay? As promised, I'm going to come through here and show you how to create your own homemade credit block using a standard font just like Arial or Helvetica. So first what I'm going to do is copy some of the text on this credit block here just so we have something to work with. And then I'll go up here to Edit, Copy, and let's make a new file. I'll confirm that. Let's go up here to File, New, and I'm just going to create any old size image here, just maybe like 1000 by 500, and show you how to create your own homemade credit block. So I'm going to come in here and change this to black. Then I'll select the Type tool, and I'll select white as the foreground color. I'm going to click on the image to get the cursor there, and then I'm going to come up here to Edit and Paste. And what I'm going to do is just reset this type here completely. There we go. And this is what it would look like on your computer if you just typed out using Times New Roman, and everybody's heard of Times, just a very popular font. And this is pretty long right now, but I'm going to change that in just a second. Go ahead and undo that and resize that once more. There we go. So without purchasing condensed fonts, if you would like to go ahead and try this and create a credit block using just regular standard fonts like Arial and Helvetica and those types of things, well, first of all, double click on the type layer to select the type, then just come up here to the character palette and choose Arial. Or if you don't have Arial, you can also use Helvetica. I'm going to select Arial, and what I'll do is just bring the character palette over here so we can see it. And all you have to do is to get Arial condensed is to come down right here and you'll find the horizontal scale option. Well, right now by default it's set at 100%, but if I go ahead and enter in 25, you can watch my text be condensed. Look at that. And I can just make this a little bit larger so you can see this. Look at this. But when we condense it like this, we'll need to add some more letter spacing as well, just to increase the readability just a little bit. You see that? So now what I can do is come in here, select these words like and lower those 2 points. Present, take that down 2 points, 1, 2, there we go. And directed by, I can just decrease that as well. And there you go. And that looks pretty good. So that's how we can create our own homemade credit blocks using the fonts that we already have on our computer. Alright, now if you would like to get some really good inspiration for these credit blocks, I highly recommend going to the site Internet Movie Poster Awards. And it's at impawards.com. That's impawards.com. And you'll find it right here. They have the top box office posters over here on the left. And you can just go through here and just look at movie posters and get ideas. Here's one of my favorite ones right here. And you can look down here. It looks like they're using the Universe font. Look at that. And this looks very similar to what we're looking at in Photoshop. Look at that. So it's right here. And you can see where they place the logos. Most of the time, the logos are placed at the very bottom of the credit block. I'll just go ahead and click on this and scroll down. You can see you see the date. And so they emphasize the date. They make that just a little bit more bold. Okay, and it looks like they've distorted the credit block there just to kind of go with the name of the movie. And we can do that too. You can do really anything you want with these credit blocks. I could just come over here to the layers palette and select this layer, and then I can just right click and rasterize that type layer there. And then what I'll do is come over here to edit, transform, and over here to distort. And to give it that type of look that we saw in the other movie poster, all we have to do is just pull the text in and make it look like this. And you can see that's pretty much what they've done on this poster right here. Now, I haven't included any of these posters on this website, on this CD, because I think a lot of these are copyrighted, and I don't want to place these posters on this CD because I don't really have the permission to do that. So what I wanted to do is just go right to the website during the video and just show you. You know, come here. And the coolest thing, though, is most people that design these movie posters, some of them are individuals, and some of them are firms. There's a couple people, there's one to up to 4 people that will design one cover, and they all, when you have like 4 eyes versus 1 eye, it's just going to come out a lot better because one person might see something that another person doesn't see. And in the end, it just comes out being really, really nice. So you can just go through here and look at these movie posters to just get ideas. And not only for credit blocks, but for Photoshop effects. Seriously. I mean, it's a really cool site. So there you go. And I'm going to go ahead and just cancel out of this, and we'll get our text back to the way it was. I'll just go ahead and undo that. All right, so let's go down to the next one. This last one here is my ultra condensed credit block. It's actually used a lot. And the difference is, if you look really closely, you can see that the titles of the companies and the people here in the credit block are very small, and they're actually 2 lines. You see that? Now, it might look very small on your computer screen. Now, if you're dealing with a standardized poster size, a large standard poster size, then these fonts are not going to be so small once everything's printed out on the poster and placed on the wall. So you'll be able to read this text. It just doesn't look like it's readable right now. But this is the ultra condensed version, and this is so you can fit a lot of credits into a very small space. And so that is what this one's all about right here. Now all the text, the smaller text like technology, what I'll do is just go over here and inside my ultra condensed group folder, I'll go ahead and expand that, and I'll click on technology with the move tool, and you can see that this text here is separated from the other text. Okay, so the ultra condensed credit block does take a lot more time than if you were to create something that looks like this. Okay, because you're going to have all this other text on the same line. You can see that. You can see all the lines of text here because it's just one layer. But you need to come in here with the space bar and use the backspace to create the right amount of space between the the company and the people here and the names of the people, and then place the titles in between there. So it can take a lot more time. Come in here, I'll click the type tool, and I'll type out Flash programming, and I can barely see that because that's so small. Let me go ahead and just make that a little bit larger, and I'll show you how to create the ultra condensed titles for the credit block. Flash programming by, and what I'll do is just go ahead and click right in front of programming by and press return, I'll go ahead and double click on that to select it, and then I'll come up here to the character palette and decrease the line spacing, which is the leading, which is right here, or I'm sorry, it's right here. And I'm going to set that down to 28 for the point, and then just decrease the line spacing once more. Great. Now I'll come up here to the options bar and align that to the left or to the right. And so you can see now, all I can do is just position this, and let me go ahead and I can bring this over now and just fit that in right here. And when it's a ultra condensed credit block, most of the ones that I've seen, they get extremely close to the text. Not too close though. You want to have a little bit of space so we don't have any readability problems there. You'd want it to look about, just like this. Just like you see there. So there you go. I think that's pretty much everything. But also keep in mind, when you're creating the ultra condensed credit block and you do have the small titles like this, always make sure that these titles are aligned with either the top or the bottom of the names here. Let me go ahead and show you an example. I'll show the rulers, and then what I'll do is just click on a ruler, or I'll click on a ruler up here and drag out a guide. And this is what you can use, because the thing is that these smaller type groups, such as the title here, they're on their own separate layers, so it's not going to align to the bottoms of the other type layers for us. We need to actually go in here by hand and make sure these are aligned properly, because that is what good design is all about, is alignment. And if you do alignment for everything in the entire project, your layouts are going to look so much better. So always keep that in mind. So use the guides if you need to, and just come in here and position those guides either at the top or the bottom, or it doesn't really matter, and make sure everything is aligned to the guide, and everything will just look a lot more perfect. So there you have it. So that's how we can create credit blocks in Photoshop. But you know what? Most people don't use Photoshop to create credit blocks. They use Illustrator. And they also use Quark Express and those other types of programs, because most of the time when you're creating something for a movie or a poster, it's going to be printed out. We do have some vector output with Photoshop, but most people create these types of things in vector programs such as Illustrator, Quark Express, InDesign, those types of things. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the next video.